It was a busy week and a newsy Friday afternoon. Today, following a judge's order, a redacted copy of the FBI affidavit used to justify the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home was publicly released. The document contained about 20 pages of full redactions, but it also revealed that in January, Trump turned over to the National Archives 184 documents with different levels of classification. They included 92 documents marked as secret and 25 documents marked as top secret. The affidavit said, quote, "There is also probable cause to believe that evidence of obstruction will be found at the premises." The document also said the Justice Department was concerned that, quote, "premature disclosure of the affidavit may, quote, have a significant and negative impact on the continuing investigation and may severely jeopardize its effectiveness by allowing criminal parties an opportunity to flee or destroy evidence." That's all, of course, really important information. Joining me to discuss this and more, Scott McFarland, congressional correspondent for CBS News, Eva McKend, national politics reporter for CNN, and joining me here in studio, Michael Shear, White House correspondent for The New York Times, and Ali Vitale, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent and the author of the new book, Electable: Why America Hasn't Put a Woman in the White House Yet. So thank you all for being here. Scott, I got to start with you. We saw this redacted copy of the affidavit. Of course, everyone in Washington and around the country was looking at it. What sticks out most to you? What's most important here?
Every speck of this, every ounce of this is unprecedented, from soup to nuts. I mean, first of all, page 30 of this 38-page affidavit says something we've never seen before, that the FBI argued there was, quote, fruits of crime potentially at the residence of a former U.S. president. It didn't preclude the possibility there are more items or more people the FBI would pursue. And just the fact that we see an affidavit for a search warrant without a corresponding civil or criminal case is itself unique. Usually when we look for court cases, we go looking for the affidavit that has the point blank, plain spoken explanation story behind the case. There's no case here, so it's difficult, Yamiche, to get our bearings around this moment.
It also said, this affidavit, that there could possibly be cause to believe that there might be obstruction found on the premises there. I wonder what you make of the significance of that. And you're talking, of course, about the fact that it's unprecedented that we're looking for crimes, but specifically this use of evidence of obstruction. I'm really interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, because we keep hearing the word obstruction in the federal cases corresponding to January 6th, and we've gotten a sense, a measure of how significant that is. That is a federal crime that has a lot of weight, and we've learned about that ahead of the search at Mar-a-Lago. But here's something else. In between the redactions, Yamiche, and there were many redactions, there was a granularity to what the federal agents were saying in the affidavit, that there were certain spaces on this sprawling Mar-a-Lago campus that were of interest. The 45 office, the 45th president's office at Mar-a-Lago, the storage spaces. And what the affidavit says is that those spaces are not authorized to hold classified information. And the affidavit was emphatic. There was secretive, classified information on the grounds, according to the federal agents.
And Michael, we're talking about the secret classified information. We said it at the top, 25 documents marked top secret. I wonder what's the significance of this to you, especially because in a lot of these notes in the affidavit they say that there were handwritten notes from former President Trump. So we, of course, covered Trump together. We know how he operates. So what does this tell you? What's the significance?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways that it's significant. One is it raises the question of why the former president didn't just deal with this as soon as the National Archives and the federal officials started inquiring. I mean, it's really hard to understand. And as Scott said, it's there's so much redacted that I'm not sure the affidavit actually answers questions. I think it maybe raises more questions. But there's, if President Trump had seen these documents before, knew what they were, had handwriting on them, there was a reason he wanted them and a reason why he didn't simply say, oh, oops, made a mistake, here are the documents back. And clearly he didn't, because they found more when they went in after this affidavit was filed. They went in and they found more information. And I think ultimately, over the course of the next weeks, months, years, however long this goes, that's the question I'm going to be looking for, is why did he want these and why didn't he give them back?
And Allie, there are so many questions, as Michael is really alluding to here. Yeah. One sentence that I kept reading over and over again is that the FBI has not identified all potential criminal confederates nor located all evidence related to this investigation. That means, in my ears to my eyes, that there could be more to this story, more people. What do you make?
That's a heck of a tease, right? That's a lot of information that we already are looking at. The fact that there are hundreds of documents here that were secret classified documents that were not being stored in the correct fashion. The fact that they're not sure that they've gotten them all, that's a stunning thing to think about too here as we go forward. I think what's also interesting is the fact that DOJ clearly knew who they were dealing with here, right? You guys talk about knowing the way that the former president operated in terms of writing on papers. It's also clear that they knew that he was someone who could try, if they were not secretive about this, to punch back first and preempt what the DOJ was trying to do. I thought that was a striking passage, not only because they know who he's dealing with, but also because they're clearly talking to multiple people inside Trump's orbit, so much so that they knew exactly where to look for all of these documents. And I think that's a thread that we're going to tug on in the coming weeks and months, too.
And Allie, really, in some ways, Eva, she wrote the intro to my next question. It's Trump punching back. So President Trump again lashed out at the FBI and the DOJ. We want to put it up for people because he made this graphic where he released a statement that said they missed a page showing all black lines, and it says, if it's hard for you to read, "Make America Great Again" through all of those redactions. But I also want to put up something else for people. An NBC News poll showing that Trump's hold over the GOP has strengthened since the FBI search. According to NBC News, since May, the number of Republicans who identify with Trump more than the GOP has risen 7%. So, Eva, you've been out there in the country. What do you make of all the politics of this?
Well, I've been in Pennsylvania and Georgia, Erie, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and Atlanta in the last couple of weeks. And what has really surprised me when I speak to Democratic voters is that they very much are concerned about the former president and the future and the health of our democracy. I think sometimes here in Washington, we are concerned that we're having a conversation that doesn't mirror what's actually happening in the country. Well, it is. They are concerned. And I think what we're going to see is Democrats really seize on this and say, look, the former president has no regard for our sacred institutions. That is the argument that they are going to make based on this search alone, even though the former president hasn't been charged. And I very much think this will continue to be a factor as we talk about November.
And Eva's talking about this idea that Democrats are sort of crafting their messaging. Michael, President Biden, though, he said that he would let the DOJ determine whether national security was compromised. But today on the line, you could see President Biden in some ways wanting to say something. Someone said to him, you know, what do you make of former President Trump, his handling of documents? And he just said, come on. What's the president's thinking here?
Well, look, I mean, there's such great irony in all of this, right? The former President Donald Trump is being assailed and you know, potentially having kind of electoral damage based on handling of classified information after he spent, you know, so many months assailing Hillary Clinton for emails and mishandling documents. I mean, you know, there's some great irony here, and I think Joe Biden would love nothing more than to sort of jump in with both feet. And look, he will. The Hatch Act, which is the law that prevents, you know, sort of political activities by the White House, doesn't apply to the president himself. And so I think you will see, you know, over the course of the next, you know, couple of months before the midterm elections, I think you will see him he was already more aggressive at a speech yesterday, and I think he'll get more aggressive and more pointed. And I think in some ways, what Democrats are hoping is that the former president's troubles in Mar-a-Lago writ large is going to be that thing that motivates, you know, people, and the Democrats and Joe Biden can seize on.
And Scott, let's talk about troubles. We alluded to it in your answers. There are a lot of unanswered questions. What do you think are the most important of those unanswered questions? What is going on next?
Well, ultimately, whether or not there's a civil or criminal case filed, there's no certainty one will be. There's going to be this appetite from the public as to what are these things that are in potentially a storage space at a private resort in Florida. What was compromised? And that's why we hear the leaders of the House and Senate Intelligence Committee saying they'd like a briefing. What might have been compromised with U.S. intelligence? You know, a confidential briefing in a secured location in the U.S. Capitol where you're authorized to show and disclose secretive and classified information. Senator Mark Warner, who chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, the senator from Virginia, issued a statement today reiterating his interest in getting briefed on this, because if something's been compromised, the U.S. Congress needs to know about it, because they too have oversight over U.S. intelligence and the classification of records.
And Allie, jump in here. You're running the halls of Congress along with Scott. What do you make of what he's saying?
Yeah, this is one of those weeks where I really wish they were here still, because I would love to be able to ask these lawmakers in real time. Many of them asking, we want to see what's in the affidavit. When I was in Alaska just 2 weeks ago at this point, I asked Senator Lisa Murkowski what she thought about this. She said she wants to see what's in here, I think in large part because the Republicans whose knee-jerk reaction was not to immediately defend Trump want to see what they're actually dealing with here. And I think that the Senate reaction has, of course, been different from the House reaction. I think McCarthy's response immediately after the search at Mar-a-Lago sort of said it all for what we're going to hear from House Republicans on this, which is they are going to vehemently defend Trump right now, and then in the longer term, if they retake the House, they're going to do all of the investigations around this and try to muddy the waters as much as possible, despite the fact that DOJ clearly has been methodological and careful in taking these unprecedented steps to actually investigate and search the home of a former president.
And Eva, going back to you, when you think about sort of the politics and how this is playing out, you mentioned being in Georgia and Pennsylvania. I wonder, when you hear Scott and Allie talking about the sort of oversight of this, where this goes next, what's on your mind?
Well, I just think we'll have to see how this continues to play out. I wonder if some of the Republicans who initially reflexively were very supportive of the former president, very sympathetic, if they sort of maybe have regrets about that response. And I do wonder if we're going to see any Republicans shift their strategy as it gets closer to November and sort of distance themselves from the former president. Does this entire Mar-a-Lago episode become too politically toxic?